I can remember some of the first conversations that I had with people after I became a believer in Jesus. They were asking me all sorts of questions about why I'd come to follow him and different aspects of, I guess, controversy with the Christian faith. And I remember how anxious I felt in those conversations, how much fear there was, and how much my heart pounded because of the pressure that I felt to answer these questions well. Now I feel like my heart pounds when I'm talking with people about Jesus, but it pounds with excitement because I've discovered over the years that what God honors in these sorts of conversations is humility and honesty. He doesn't need us to have perfect answers. He just needs us to be willing to engage with people in a conversation. The framework that I found to be really helpful when talking about tricky things to do with faith has 4 parts. The first is to listen. Jesus in his life, in his ministry, asked a ton of questions, and that meant that he was listening all the time. He was listening to what hurt people, what their hopes were, what their greatest desires were, and what their greatest questions for God were. And I think that's a really good place for us to start too, to listen to people and to ask them, it sounds like that really matters to you. Can I ask you more about that? Can you tell me more about that? To listen first before we speak really changes the game. It changes the dynamic from something that could be high pressure and adversarial to something that's far more like an ordinary conversation, a conversation that we would have with anyone. So that's the first point, to listen. The second is yes, to say yes to people's questions, yes to their concerns, yes to even to their objections to faith. Because those are the sorts of things that we see modeled in the Bible. People are always asking questions about God and expressing doubt and difficulty with the sorts of things that they're faced with when thinking about him. We ourselves have probably asked these questions. We ourselves have probably wrestled hard with them. And so to start by saying, yes, I get it, and actually even the Bible gets it. People in the Bible are asking these things too. Jesus gets these questions. And it's right to ask these questions. It's right to find that hard. It's understandable to have difficulty with that. It's a really helpful point of view because it says we're on the same page. We have common ground here. It's a much more friendly way to start a conversation with someone. The third bit is but. Whereas the yes bit is really affirming, but is a little bit more challenging. And that doesn't mean it has to be hostile, but it does mean that we do have to say, there is a different way to think about this, and I'm inviting you to take on that perspective. There's a different way to think about Jesus. Have you thought about this aspect? Have you thought about this? Did you know that Jesus actually says this? I think you can find hope and value and joy better in Jesus than where you're currently finding it. It's a challenge to say, move from your position, don't just stay stuck where you are. The fourth bit is Jesus. Jesus is the answer. Jesus is where God's promises are fulfilled and where we find the best news that humanity has never heard before. In Jesus's life, his death and his resurrection, we find truly good news and the answers to the questions that we are facing. And so we need to get to Jesus. We need to point to him. We need to look to see what it is in his life, his teaching, his death and resurrection can help respond to the sorts of questions people are raising with us. So that's the framework of 4. Listen, yes, but, and Jesus. And I hope this helps you.